Hey, Nukenites! Time for another OSL Round of 16. The selection process this season was a lot of bit, different than last season's and seasons of past. And it's so convoluted that I'm not even going to try to explain it in this video because it would take the entire video. But the selection that I will talk about is the last selection of the selection night, which is basically Jaedong's decision of who he wanted in his group. We'll talk about that later. Now, the format of the round of 16 is as such. It is a round-robin format. Every player will play every other player, and at the end of it all, the two with the most wins will move up into the round of 8. 9 times out of 10, that usually gives us a chance at some awesome tiebreakers too. Say one player has 2 wins, 1 loss, they move up. And the other 3 players have 1 win and 2 losses each, so they're going to have to go through a tiebreaker at the end of the round of 16 to figure out who gets the second spot. There have been some pretty epic tiebreakers in the past. In the Batu OSL, we had Stork versus July versus Yellow, which resulted in I think a 6-game tiebreaker. It was insane, but quite awesome. So, without further ado, let's move on to the groups. Group A, Jaedong, Pusan, Go.Go, and Movie. If you were wondering, no, there is no definitive group of death in this OSL. The talent is pretty evenly distributed among all of the groups, so I think everyone's going to have their own personal group of death that they like, and I'll talk about mine a little bit later. But yes, try to guess who Jaedong chose for his group at the very, very end. That's right, he chose Go.Go, which I think is a major sign of weakness. Jaedong is known for picking extremely strong players for his group, and I was almost positive that Jaedong was going to pick Calm, since Calm took away his shot at the MSL last season. But he had Calm in his group, but he chose Go.Go and switched Go.Go out with Calm. So Calm goes into Group C. But yeah, Bisu did this last season, and we all remember what happened to him when he chose Go.Go. So I'm expecting pretty much the same thing to happen to Jaedong this season. I mean, Jaedong's a great player, we all know that, but I think we all underestimate what players like Go.Go are capable of. I mean, Go.Go will do anything to win, and Jaedong's going to have to be very, very mindful of that. Pusan and Movie both chose this group. They both chose to be in Jaedong's group. Pusan's was kind of heroic. He had 2 choices, basically. He could go into Group C or Group A. And he hovered his name over Group C for a few seconds, then pulled back, thought about it for 10 seconds, and slapped his name right under Jaedong's. So he's ready to prove himself in this group. Whether or not he'll make it out of this group, I'm not sure. I think one of the main reasons he chose this group is because he thinks he can handle Movie. Pusan's PvP, his Protoss versus Protoss, is very good, and Movie's Protoss versus Protoss recently has not been very good. So Pusan actually has a great chance of being the second spot to move out. I think people would say that Jaedong is a favorite, of course, and they probably put Movie up there, but I think it's a little bit closer than that about who gets the second spot, or maybe even the first spot. I'm not even sure if Jaedong's going to be able to make it out of this group. Alright, let's move on to Group B. Yellow, Pure, Zero, and Hwasin. This is a very, very tough to call group. I think everyone can pretty much safely assume that Zero is going to make it out. His versus Protoss is spectacular. His versus Terran is great. And he's actually pushing his Zerg versus Zerg up. He beat Jaedong not too long ago. He lost to him later in that same series, but yeah, he beat Jaedong. So Yellow better be quaking in his boots there. But the good thing for players like Pure is Pure has actually faced off against Zero recently. He lost against him, so he can take a look at that replay, get the timings down, and maybe be able to take the hurt to Zero this time around. Like I said, this group is very, very tough to call. I mean, your guess is as good as mine as to who moves out. Let's move on to Group C. Fantasy and the Zergs. Fantasy, Calm, Shine, and Effort. Fantasy's going to have such a hard time here because he's going against 2 of the best ZVT players in the game. Calm and Effort both really know how to destroy Terran, so Fantasy's going to have to come up with some more creative play, maybe some rushes of some kind, bunker rushes, something to take these guys off their game and keep them from doing their standard play, because I think their standard play will just crush Fantasy. I don't think Shine has much of a chance here. Just Shine, he's very good versus Protoss, but as you see, there's no Protoss in this group. And his Zerg versus Zerg is nothing spectacular, and he's going to go up against Calm, who just won a Zerg versus Zerg final in the MSL, and Effort, whose Zerg versus Zerg is absolutely awesome. But I think the other three are very close. I would probably assume that Fantasy and Effort are going to move out here. Other people might say Effort and Calm, but I'll leave that bickering to you all. Let's move on to Group D here, my favorite group. Type B, Stork, Kwanro, and Flash. This is a highly volatile group. There's no telling what's going to happen here because Stork, getting himself up, he's doing great versus Zerg, and obviously he's great versus Terran. But Flash, I mean, there's a fire in Flash's eyes that I haven't seen in any other player in this OSL so far. So Flash could definitely take the hurt to Stork, get a somewhat of an upset there. Flash is one of the best Terran players in the world right now, so I don't think it would be that great of an upset. And Flash has been talking about a new mid to late game TVP strategy that he has perfected, so he might inflict that on poor Stork. And obviously Kwanro is just such an aggressive, unpredictable player that I think it's very hard to call his matchups. I mean, he could win against Stork, he could win against Flash and Type B. He's very good in all of those matchups. At Type B, he's beaten Stork before, he's beaten Lita, he's beaten a lot of great players. He's a thinker Zerg. He has some great strategies, so even he could make it out of this group. I think this one is going to be one of the most fun groups. At least it's the one that I'm looking forward to the most. And that is the OSL round of 16. As you can see, a lot of great matchups here. I was hoping that it would be very distributed. All of the talent would be distributed across the groups, and that's exactly what happened. We're probably going to see a lot of favorites move up, but we're probably going to see a lot of upsets as well. So be prepared for both. This has been Nuke. I will be back on Wednesday for the first matchup, Jaedong versus Pusan on Fighting Spirit, the 4th map of the EVER OSL. See you guys soon.